2013's The Last of Us was an unexpected success. Not shy from commercial hits, developers Naughty Dog has had their fair share of acclaimed franchises, from the PlayStation mascot-worthy Crash Bandicoot to the action adventures of the Uncharted series. But little did they know that this brand new IP would become the linchpin in the studio's library, and will eventually grow to become one of the mainstays for the Sony PlayStation brand. Hey guys, how's it going? Lap here. On this episode I'll be taking a look at The Last of Us. As always, I'll be giving a brief take on its production, characters, gameplay, design, and story. Although there's multiple means to get spoilers, my takes generally tends to avoid major story plotlines. However, some minor topics and subjects will be addressed. Nevertheless, I will keep spoilers to the minimal. As always, the running soundtrack for these videos are my acoustic arrangement of the game's music. I'll release individual covers and look at both modern and retro games on this channel, so do subscribe to keep up the releases. So, remain quiet, move slowly, and let's get down to it. The Last of Us was an interesting game for me. For the longest of time, I tried to avoid it. The combination of hype and my general stance on avoiding horror or intensive game put me off The Last of Us for a long while. But eventually I succumbed to the hesitance, and what I found was that The Last of Us wasn't just a basic survival horror game, and that maybe there was some truth in the hype. Beneath my general typecasting was a game filled with a deep narrative, with incredible character development and moral lessons. Although I knew about the basis of the plot even before playing, this game still mesmerised me. So how did an unknown new IP become the gaming darling of a generation? Let's have a look at the production. Just a note, I will be playing the PlayStation 4 remastered version. Go! Development for The Last of Us started in 2009. After the release of the highly acclaimed Uncharted 2, Naughty Dog split its team to two, with one working on Uncharted 3 and the second on the fourth installment of Jak and Daxter. The team wanted to modernise the cartoonish design of the previous entries and shift into a more grounded approach. However, as development progressed, it became apparent that the realistic theme would not suit the quirky vibe the series has built prior. This led to the notion to use the resource to work on a brand new IP. Naughty Dog would utilise an early concept developed by creative director Neil Druckmann during his college days. Dr. Uck. Druckmann created a game with a plot based around a police officer with a heart condition tasked to protect a young girl in a zombie apocalyptic world. Due to his health issue, the girl would be playable for part of the game. This concept would eventually mould into the basis of the plot for The Last of Us. As production advanced, the idea of a zombie apocalypse adapted into a fungus infection. The idea originated from the BBC documentary Planet Earth, where the cordyceps fungi would infect the insect host and take control of its body, cultivating the fungus. This construct led to the team thinking what it would be like if the cordyceps could infect humans, thus becoming a theme for the apocalypse. Naughty Dog wanted to make the science behind the infection believable. Similar to the documentary, the more the fungi take control of the host, the more it became disfigured. As the cordyceps drains all the life essence from the host will die, and the fungi will bloom, releasing spores that can further infect others and continue the cordyceps' evolution cycle. The primary core of the game is the growth between the two main protagonists, Joe and Ellie. To flesh out the relationship and immersion, game director Bruce Straley placed gameplay and specific actions into the cutscene so that the player gets to act out certain interactions. The game puts you in 2033, 20 years after the start of the cordyceps outbreak. The world is in chaos as this infection has stricken 60% of the world's population. Government order is in disarray after failing to contain or create a vaccine for the infection. The general population has become hostile, sustaining through a dog-eat-dog world where the remaining humans will resort to extreme actions to survive. This outlook led to many subgroups and militia being formed, generating even more conflicts within the human dystopia. You'll control Joel, an apathetic middle-aged man, hardened from years of survival. Like most survivors, Joel have to do multiple odd jobs to survive, including smuggling goods. You'll be accompanied by your longtime smuggling partner, Tess, who is just as jaded and embittered from the harsh surrounding as Joel. Trying to reclaim some stolen guns, Joel and Tess meets Marlene, the leader of a militia named the Fireflies. Marlene makes a deal with them. For the exchange for the guns, they'll need to help smuggle a 14-year-old girl, Ellie, to a Fireflies camp. Ellie is brash and impulsive, which gripes against Joel's aloof nature. Being relatively young, Ellie is oblivious to the many extremes of the chaotic world. During the journey across the country, you'll have many allies join the party. You'll meet Bill, who is short-tempered but organised. His vigilant and paranoid mentality makes him extremely wary to outsiders. Henry and his young brother Sam are two survivors you acquaint. Similar to Joel and Ellie, both party has common approaches and chemistries. You'll also meet Tommy, Joel's brother and former member of the Fireflies. Tommy has a frosty relationship with his brother and holds a survival camp with his wife, Maria. You'll traverse through multiple rundown suburbs and metropolises, dealing with many infected and hostile enemies alike. The Last of Us is an action-adventure survival horror game, placing the player in a desolate, post-apocalyptic world where human civilization has diminished and nature has slowly taken back urban areas. To deal with the harsh conditions, our protagonists are armed with a variety of weapons and combat approaches to fend against enemies. Assortment of firearms are found throughout, from pistols to rifles to bows or even a flamethrower. All firearms have different ranges, firepower and uses, giving the gamer many combat approaches. Standard melee system is also utilised. Some enemies can be taken down through hand-to-hand combat, while some would require melee weapons to take down. Ammos and resources are limited, making scavenging for supplies essential. This creates a paradox where the player may want to save certain items or ammos just in case they'll need it in future situations. With scavenging comes crafting. The player can craft all sorts of items. These could be healing items such as medkits, to shivs which can be used to take down enemies or open certain locked doors. Melee weapons can also be enhanced, giving them more damage and usage. Throwable items such as Molotov cocktails or nail bombs can also be crafted, letting the player take out enemies from range. The Last of Us gives the player multiple ways to approach a fight. They could go in guns blazing, or they could stealth their way around enemies. Another option is to simply avoid combat, which becomes the wiser option in harder difficulties, or to preserve the limited ammo and resources. With sparse supplies, Listen mode is introduced, where they can outline enemies through walls or objects. Bricks and bottles are commonly found, and they will become essential for causing distractions, melee, or getting past certain enemies. Puzzles are used throughout to get past areas. You'll soon get used to the many ladders, planks, or crate puzzles within the game. Firearms and character skills can also be upgraded by scavenging for parts and supplements. Firearms can be upgraded when a workbench is located, and skills via the main UI screen. The main theme of the game is the growing father and daughter bond between Joel and Ellie. As they traverse the country, they'll grow to rely on each other, both physically and mentally. The evolution of Joel's character is what makes the game endearing. To make a person that has done numerous questionable things relatable, and then in time display a softer side of them, highlights the nuance in the character's outlook. Mixed that with the excitable and adolescent personality of Ellie, helps soften Joe's bleak attitude. The added responsibility they both have for each other pushes them both to become better and to see the positives within their cruel surroundings. A lot of this interaction is only displayed through optional dialogues. These show the shift between the pair and expresses additional information from other characters. There are many collectibles within the game. You'll pick up artifacts which give you further insights to other people's lives, or further explanation on its surroundings. Some artifacts will trigger reactions from Joel or Ellie. Other collectibles include training manuals which offer knowledge and instructions to further upgrades, skills, or improves items. Comics can be found and are based around a series that Ellie is extremely fond of. But the most hidden collectibles are the Firefly pendants. These are placed throughout. Some are straightforward to find, while some are exceedingly easy to miss. So, if you want to collect all of the tags, be prepared to look for flashy shiny objects or try to find concealed secret paths. The game can be played in 5 difficulties. The harder the setting, the stronger the enemies are, and the easier the player can die. Due to this, tactical approach will differ depending on difficulty, with a strong tendency to avoid battles or use discrete means on the grounded setting. The game also offers an online multiplayer mode called Factions. This mode allows multiple players to build a clan and play through different game modes to help sustain their group in a 12-week setting. The world design puts you in a near-futuristic post-apocalyptic environment where human civilization and settlement has deteriorated. Nature has overtaken these areas, elaborating the notion and vision that life goes on. What is portrayed is the idea that there is beauty even in the worst of times. This is shown in many ways, from plants and trees overtaking deserted areas to thriving wildlife within areas populated with infected, to more direct forms such as the blooming of a cordyceps flower whilst emulating deadly spores. The infection design cycle is fascinating, with the team relaying back to the BBC's Planet Earth, as well as images of diseased patients as the basis of the evolution. Naughty Dog details the gradual degeneration in the infected, showing how the host can transform from an early stage where appearance remained relatively similar to normal people, to becoming physically disfigured as the fungi breaks beyond the skin, including the head, to the point they can no longer see. Prolonged stages of infection includes the hardened cordyceps developing throughout, covering the entire body. To make all scenes as immersive as possible, Naughty Dog would use motion capture for authenticity. They would cast Ashley Johnson as Ellie, and voiceover King of Kings, Troy Baker, as Joel. They also recorded the voiceovers during the motion capture. All scenes were captured on one take, with ad-libbed moments kept in for realism. The sense of getting authentic takes meant a lot of scenes were redone multiple times, some to Baker's frustration. However, both Johnson and Baker did have direct inputs on the roles. Over time, they would develop an understanding on how the characters may react to certain situations, thus attributing nuances to many scenes. Multiple cameras were set up during filming to create a cinematic-like feel. Although facial capture was not used, the team did recreate facial expressions from the scenes. All facial motions were hand-keyed and based around the actor's depiction whilst filming. The sound arrangement was deliberately sparse. The team wanted a lot of natural sounds such as blowing winds, rusting leaves, running water, animal noises. The idea of hearing your enemies or the infected before seeing them was designed to build up tension. Composer Gustavo Santaolalla uses a minimalistic approach for his soundtrack. Santaolalla relies on simplistic melodies and motifs as basis, with intentional limited progressions. Mixed with elements of atonal chords, the tracks gives off a feeling of melancholy as it ebbs and flows between relaxing melodic passages to dissonant clashes. Phrased with a lot of space and lingering drones, the music is designed to be atmospheric, intensified by repeated themes and ostinatos. For example, the motif for All Gone is repeated throughout. This motif is very simple, but the use of spacing and held notes gives it a sinister feel. Another technique used is adding odd notes to create a sense of uneasiness. Another example is the main melody of the title track, The Last of Us. This melody uses an off note near the end of the progression, before resolving back to the tonic, giving the melody a suspicious vibe. What accentuates the music and the vibe is the way it was composed. Santaollalla's method was very messy. A lot of the soundtrack has a lo-fi element where mistakes were kept. A lot of the music are offbeat and doesn't stick to the rhythm. However, all of these factors adds to the feel and authenticity. The idea the music is clumsy and not constricted reflects to the ambience the game is trying to set. The Last of Us is based around the concept of uncertainty and broken society, so this musical approach fits perfectly with the themes it's trying to relay. Although the music was simple, I was able to grasp the intent Santalasa envisioned. The idea of drone notes, free-flowing movements, leaving in mistakes is what makes the intricacies within the soundtrack. The use of spacious music and the emphasis on natural sound design is exactly what is needed to build intensity within scenes and gameplay. This creates empathy when connecting the player to the narrative. The Last of Us was a narrative marvel. Its use of cinematic framing, deep and relatable characters, and the use of gameplay to accelerate the plot makes this an incredibly heavy story-driven game. The controls can be a bit stiff at parts. However, the game still plays exceedingly well, especially at the time of recording. It's a near 8-year-old game that was released on the tail end of 2 previous console generations. Graphically, the game still looks magnificent. The motion and facial movement are as believable today as it was in 2013, and does not hinder the story in any way. The in-world design still pops, as the haunting soundtrack sets the timbre for this wonderfully crafted narrative art. In conclusion, if you haven't played The Last of Us, I highly recommend it. The graphics still look stunning, and the tone is still as resonant now as it was 8 years ago, and in no way needs a remake. Coming from a person that was originally hesitant to play, seeing the bond between the 2 protagonists unfold was a delight. Naughty Dog without a doubt created one of the strongest plotlines in gaming, something that has inspired many major developers to follow suit, a testament to the art that is The Last of Us. Thank you for watching that episode of A Look At. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. Each video takes a lot of time researching and arranging, so please do give this video a like and share. Do give this channel a subscribe. Little things like this help my channel grow and let me continue working on these videos. Leave any comments and suggestions below. Tell me if you like it or not. If you dislike it, let me know why, so I'll try to fix it for future releases. Thank you again, and until next time, take care.